to warmly welcome all of you to today's Rapid Monthly Webinar. Today's webinar is being organized by Rapid with support from the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office at FCTO. Through this webinar series, we try to promote evidence-based research and create opportunities for emerging scholars to engage in policy discussions. The topic of today's webinar is quite an interesting one: crude oil prices, currency depreciation, and consumer price dynamics in an import-dependent economy. Evidence from Bangladesh. This is a timely and important issue for Bangladesh, where developments in global energy markets and exchange rate movements have direct implications for inflation, consumer welfare, and overall economic stability. Understanding these linkages is important for informed policy dialogue and decision-making. Allow me to introduce our presenters. We are very pleased to have with us Mr. Muhaiminul Haq Zidan and Mr. Rohim Mahmood, both students of Jagannath University, who will be presenting their research this afternoon. We're also very pleased to have with us Dr. Mohammad Din Islam, Research Director of Rapid and Professor of Economics at the University of Dhaka. He will be moderating today's session and guiding the discussion and sharing his valuable insights. With that, I would now like to hand it over to Dean, sir. And once again, thank you very much for joining us.
Many thanks, Jara. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can perfectly hear you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So we have a very interesting presentation. So before we start our presentation, before I give the floor to our presenters, let me now briefly explain how we are planning to conduct this session. So the presentation will be about 20 minutes. And then we will open the floor. We'll have questions from the participants here or from the people watching it online on Facebook. So we collect the questions and then we go back to the presenters for their reaction. So we would appreciate your feedback, your suggestion, and your reaction to the paper presented today, so that the authors will be benefited by incorporating them and improving the quality of the paper. So without further ado, let me now invite the presenters. So we have two presenters. Who is going to present your paper, Rohim Mahmood or Muhaiminul Haq Zidan?
Assalamu alaikum, sir. We both will present. I will present the first half of the slides and my co-author will present the second half of the slides.
Okay, great. Please go ahead and start your presentation.
Just a minute. Okay. So, can you audible?
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you see my screen?
We can see your screen, yes.
Oh, thank you. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being present here. Myself, Muhaiminul Haq Zidan. I, along with my co-author, Rahim Mahmood, we are both studying at Jagannath University at Department of Economics. Today, we are presenting our research paper titled Crude Oil Prices, Currency Depreciation, and Consumer Price in an Import-Dependent Economy, Evidence from Bangladesh. Well, this study investigates how global crude oil price movements interact with exchange rate depreciation and consumer prices in Bangladesh, an economy that is heavily reliant on imported energy. Over the next few minutes, we will go through our how this research, how we got motivated about this research, the data we used, our methodology, key findings, and policy recommendations. Moving on to the next slide. Here are our table of contents. I'm not wasting any time in there. Now, going further to the introduction part, the next slide. Uh, Moving on to the next slide here. Our next slide gives us the introduction part. Yes. So let's begin with the introduction. The global oil price shocks have long been recognized as one of the most significant external disturbances affecting import-dependent economies, and Bangladesh is no exception. As a country that imports the vast majority of its petroleum needs, fluctuations in international crude oil prices translate directly into domestic economic consequences. More specifically, oil price changes influence three critical macroeconomic channels. The first one is inflation. It affects inflation through higher transportation and production costs. The second one is exchange rate. It is affected through increased demand for foreign currency to foreign oil finance oil imports, and the third one is exports through cost push effects on export-oriented industries. In this study, we examined the dynamic relationship among these variables using monthly data spanning from 2022 to 2026, a period that captures both the post-pandemic recovery and the global energy price volatility following geopolitical disruptions and international oil markets. To capture these relationships robustly, we apply a suite of advanced time series econometric models like the ARDL model, the NARDL model, the vector error correction model, the structural the structural VR model, the IRF model, etc. Now, moving on to the motivation part, the next slide gives us why does this research matter, or why or how have we have been motivated to do this kind of work or this kind of paper. The first reason here is the global oil price volatility has been rising in recent years, and the volatility poses a direct threat to Bangladesh's macroeconomic stability. Unlike economies that are net oil exporters or energy self-sufficient, Bangladesh does not have this buffer. Secondly, Bangladesh's heavy dependence on imported oil, covering a substantial share of its energy and transportation needs, increases its vulnerability to external shocks that originate well beyond its borders and beyond its policy control. The third motivational reason was, as I mentioned, that oil price fluctuations don't operate in isolation. They ripple through the economy, affecting inflation directly through fuel and transport costs, affecting the exchange rate through the current account and import bill, and affecting export performance through input costs of export-oriented manufacturing. The fourth reason here is most importantly, from a policy perspective, we have to understand precisely how these relationships work. Their magnitude, their timing, and their persistence is essential for the Bangladesh Bank and the Ministry of Finance for effective monetary and fiscal policy responses. Without this empirical understanding, policy interventions risk being reactive rather than proactive. Now, moving on to the next slide, we have our data source and variables, where we can see we have used four variables. The first one is oil price, which we have measured in USD barrel. The second one is consumer price index, or CPI, which is the only dependent variable of our model. The third variable we used is the exchange rate, and the fourth one we have used is the exports. On the independent variable side, you can see we have included exchange rate, which is measured as the Bangladeshi taka per US dollars, sourced from Bangladesh Bank and the Federal Reserve Economic Data, or FRED. The exports here we have measured in million US dollars. It has been sourced from the Export Promotion Bureau and the World Bank. The CPI, we have used it from Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics as well, and the crude oil price or the oil price we have measured in US dollars per barrel, sourced from the Global Community Market Database. Now, it's worth noting that while our CPI has been treated as the dependent variable in different stages of our model, since we are interested in both how oil price responds to drive other variables such as exchange rate and export service primarily as explanatory variables, we are going to run through some models to find out what kind of outcomes we have find through this research. Now, moving on to the next slide, we have our key outcomes. In these outcomes, you can firstly see that we have run our unit root test to confirm that all of our variables like the oil price, CPI, exchange rate, and exports are integrated for order denoted I1. This means none of the series are stationary in their levels, but they all became stationary after first differencing. This is a critical precondition because it tells us we cannot simply run an ordinary least square regression or levels these variables without risking spurious results. Secondly, given that all variables are I1 or first order differentiated, we test for co-integration and we find strong evidence of a long run co-integrating relationship among them. In simple terms, this means that even though these variables may drift apart in short run, there exists a stable long run equilibrium relationship binding them together. Thirdly, we estimate an error correction model or ECM. This confirms the convergence toward that long run equilibrium. The error correction term is negative and statistically it is significant, which is exactly the theory predicts. It tells us that whenever the system deviates from equilibrium, the market forces pulls it back over time. Fourthly, in terms of short-term dynamics, we find that CPI has the strongest short-term influence on oil price dynamics among four explanatory variables. An interesting and somewhat counterintuitive finding that we will discuss further in the finding sections. Finally, we conducted a full battery of diagnostic tests, including the test for serial correlation, heterozygosity, and parameter stability. And our estimated model passed all of these three diagnostic checks, giving the confidence in the robustness of our results. Now, moving on to the next slide, that advanced analysis findings, we are going to dig a bit deeper. We ran extra checks to make sure that the 2022 results wasn't a fluke, and indeed there was a noticeable shakeup around that year, but the long run relationship still held afterward. We also discovered something interesting. When oil prices go up, the damage to the economy happens fast and it hits hard. But when oil prices go down, the benefit, the cheaper goods, the relief for consumer takes much longer to show its up or to show its implications. Prices go up like a rocket, but come down like a feather. Lastly, when a shock hits, its effects don't disappear overnight. They linger in the economy for a roughly 6 to 12 months period of time. Now moving on to the next slide, probably my last part of my presentation. It shows the major findings and policy implications, where it means what we can find out or what we can see its effects on our everyday life. Well, when the oil price gets more expensive globally, two bad things happen to Bangladesh at once. First one is the prices on shelves go up and the taka weakens against the dollar. And it's not a simple one to punch. A weaker taka actually means the oil price shock worse because it now costs even more taka to buy our daily necessaries or to buy the same amount of oil, creating a kind of vicious cycle. Our analysis shows oil price swings are a major reason inflation in Bangladesh is so unpredictable. So the takeaway for policymakers is that don't wait for the damage to fully show up. Rather, they should take actions quickly because we know that the effects take 6 to 12 months to settle. There's a real window to step in early. The controlling of inflation, stabilizing the currency, reducing the oil dependence, and soften below before more spreads out the whole economy. So basically, what we can see that when the oil price are getting up, it is having a very fast and uh, very sudden effect in our economy. But when it goes down, it is taking a more time for us to getting stabilized from that situation or getting stabilized from that shocking situation. So that's all from my part of the presentation. Now I am giving the floor to my co-author Rahim Mahmood to present the further parts of our paper. Thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Now I would like to present the descriptive analysis of our data set. Before conducting the advanced econometric analysis, it is important to understand the basic characteristics of the variables. These tables reports the summary statistics for crude oil and consumer price index, exchange rate, and exports. For each variables, we present the number of observations, mean, standard deviations, and minimum value and maximum values. The mean represent the average value of each variables during the study period from January 2022 to March 2026. The standard deviations measures the degree of variations of volatility. A larger standard deviations indicates the greater fluctuations over time. The minimum and maximum values provide the range of observations, helping us identify the extent of variation in each variables. Overall, the descriptive statistics, they indicate that all the variables exhibit sufficient variations, which is desirably for its time series analysis, and none of these variables appear to be unrealistic values, suggesting that the data set is more suitable for further econometric modeling. And if we move to the next slides, so we can see the histogram. So histogram part. So this slide histogram of each study variables. A histogram is a graphical presentations of the frequency distributions of the data. It helps us understand the observations are distributed across different values. The superimposed normal distributions curve allow us to compare the actual data with a theoretical normal distributions. From these histograms, we can actually visually examine whether the variables are approximately symmetric or skewed. We can also identify any potential outliers or unusual observations that may influence the econometric results. Although perfect normality is not a strict requirement for time series such as ARDL or VAR, the understanding the distributions of the variables provides variable insight of the characteristics of data before estimations. So if we move to, we can see the kernel density. Kernel density. This slide shows the kernel density of plots of the variables, and a kernel density plot is a similar to a histogram but provides a smoother estimate of the probability distributions. Unlike histograms, a kernel density estimations is not affected by the choice of a class intervals, in making it easier to observe the underlying shapes of the data, and these graphs helps us determine whether the variables are normally distributions or positively skewed or negatively skewed. This also allows us to compare the distributions of different variables more effectively. The kernel density plots support the findings from the histograms, provide the additional confidence regarding the quality and characteristics of the data. If we move to the next slide, we can see the correlation tables. So this slide shows the Pearson correlation matrix among the study observations. Correlation analysis measures the strength of the and directions of linear relationships between the two variables. A correlation coefficient ranges from -1 + 2 + 1. So the correlation coefficient, the coefficient is close to 1 indicates that it is a positive relationships, and meaning the variables move in the same directions. If value is close to -1, indicates that a strong negative relationships, meaning the variables move in the opposite directions. A value close to 0 indicates that a little or no linear correlations or relationships. Our results shows that crude oil plus have a meaningful relationships with the consumer price index, exchange rate, and exports. But however, none of the correlations are success in excessively high, indicating that several multicollinearity is unlikely to be present. So therefore, all the variables can be included simultaneously in our econometric models without creating serious estimations problem. This analysis provides preliminary evidence of the relationships among the variables before conducting ARDL, NARDL, and VAR and SAVR analysis. If we move to the next slide, we can see the limitations of our study. Limitations of our study. So like my empirical studies, the research that has several limitations. First, the study focus only on data Bangladesh, and the findings may not be directly applicable to the other countries with different econometric structure. Secondly, the analysis is based on the monthly data covering the period 2022-2026. A longer sample period could provide a additional insight into long-run dynamics. And third, only 4 macro variables are included in the model, and important variables such as interest rate, money supply, and government policy may also influence the economy. Let me clarify one thing. We look for that for this data, but this data is unavailable for the Bangladesh, for especially in the monthly. That's why we couldn't include the we couldn't make the analysis in our studies. And finally, that's why finally unexpected global events, geographical conflicts, and changes economic policies may affect the results beyond the scope of this study. So we can say that we can explore some of the effects or occurrence in the Bangladesh. One is the financial crisis in 2008, and some other crisis. So we didn't take the structural breaks. So throughout, let's say, throughout the 1982 to 2024, there are so many changes between among these times. That's why we couldn't that. But that is one kind of measures and measures limitations of our study. And despite of this limitation, this study provides the evidence on the impact of global oil price shocks on Bangladesh economy. And moving to the next slide, if we can see the recommendations part. Recommendations. So based on our empirical studies, we can construct some of the recommendations. First recommendations is policymakers should adopt proactive inflation control measures whenever the global oil prices increase. Second, Bangladesh Bank should strengthen the exchange rate management to reduce excessive currency depreciations. And third would be that government should encourage the investment in the renewable and alternative energy sources to reduce dependence on imported oil. And fourth one is the export-oriented studies should receive appropriate support during periods of high energy costs to maintain international competitiveness. Finally, policymakers should develop an effective oil price monitoring forecasting system so that timely policy actions can be taken before the external shocks and significant affects the economy. And that's the end of our presentations. And thank you all. And if you have any kind of questions, let me know. Let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohim Mahmood and Mohamed Haq Jidan, for finishing your presentation in time. Let me now open the floor. Anyone has any comment or question or feedback to our presenters today? Any comment? Um, I have few comments here. Let me now share with you. Let me congratulate you. This is a very important topic you identified. But if you want to publish it, you need to do a lot of work. Uh, my first feedback to you, you have listed a number of models, right? If I'm correct, if I'm looking at the correct slides, so you have mentioned in your introduction that you are using ARDL and ARDL, VCM, structural work, IRF, FEVT. So the thing is that you need to actually identify what is the precise research question is. You want to investigate the impact of oil shock on inflation, exchange rate and export, or you want to see their co-integration or co-movement. So based on your precise research question, I think in any journal, and they would ask you to choose the best model, not like running all the model at the same time, but the best model that actually answers to your research question. So I think it is important to come up with a precise research question and then select the best econometric model or theoretical model that can answer your research question. But if you actually estimate if you estimate a menu of econometric model, then that actually indicate that you are not sure actually what you are trying to do. So I think this is an important observation. Then you actually identified that you classified three variable as a independent variable and one as dependent variable. Consumer price, you said it, independent variable. Sorry, dependent variable, and the other sorry, you identified two dependent variable and two independent variable, right?
Sir, there was a mistake in the first slide that we had provided. So we have changed the PPT a bit.
Okay, so yeah,
We
I'm
had
actually
provided
reading
that.
You
from.
can see the
We
slides
yes,
right
we
here.
had provided the corrected one.
Okay, so I'm actually reading from your old presentation. So you have like three independent variable and one dependent variable. So when you are running, if you are running VAR or VCM or structural VAR and estimating in process of function or the factor error variant decomposition, HVT. Actually, in that case, there is no dependent or independent variable. You actually, this is a vector autoregression, right? So you actually run each variable on each variable and their past on the lags or past values. So if you say that you have dependent variable and independent variable, that means you are not estimating VAR or VCM or structural VAR or this group of model. So that implies that your objective is some kind of like causal analysis, and in that case, the model would be ARDA or some form of ARDA or maybe some dynamic OLS. So I think that's very important that you identify your research question and then select a model, and then you can actually say that. Then it would be very apparent that which are dependent and which are independent. Since you are dealing with time series data, I'm not sure why you have chosen from January 2022 to March 2026. So this is a very natural question. If you submit or if you present your research in any seminar or conference, or if you submit your paper to a journal, the reviewer will definitely ask the question, why this time period? Why not like maybe 10 years monthly data? Because for time series, the time series prediction is based on the past uh, structure of the data. So if you just cut it arbitrarily, or if you take data arbitrarily from some point, that might give a very different picture instead of taking like available all the data. Uh, and then it would be nice if you could see, if you could show us the co-integration result, whether you said that your variable are co-integrated, but it would be great if you can add a slide, maybe as a backup slide, on the co-integration. You said that they are all co-integrated and uh, order one. Uh, but uh, but if you look at the data, if you showed us the data and related to this comment, you actually plotted some histogram and some kernel density. I think since you are dealing with time series data, I'm not sure what does your kernel density implies and whether the unit are correct. For example, in case of uh, export is ranging from 3,000 millions to 5,000 millions, right? More or less. So that means that implies 3 billion to 5 billion. But our export, we know, is at least about 50 billion. And I'm not sure what this kernel density indicates. You don't need normality in time series data. What you need the whether they are stationary or not. So if you can argue that they are stationary, that's fine. And it would be useful for visual inspection if you just add time series graph, not just kernel density or histogram. In fact, histogram is not very intuitive or useful in case of time series data. Uh, Histogram is useful when you have like categorical data or discrete data in cross section. In that case, histogram might be useful. But if you can add some time series data, that can actually indicate whether there is some a trend in your data or whether there is any other issues in the data you are using. Uh, you haven't showed us any other result except the correlation table. Correlation table actually shows nothing, especially in case of time series data. Whenever we work with time series data, we need to ensure that there is no spurious relationship between them. Especially as you can see that we have inflation, sustained inflation, and also just after COVID, during the time of COVID, the oil price was very low, but then immediate after COVID, the oil price is rising, especially followed by Ukraine-Russia war and then now Middle East conflict. So you need to actually justify that these are not just simple independent trends. These are like variation art. Uh, Variation of one can explain the variation of other. It would be nice if you can actually estimate instead of ARDL. I would suggest you can try to estimate VAR or structural VAR and then estimate some impulse response function. And if possible, if you want to uh, identify which factors actually contributing more to our inflation, you can actually do the factor error variance decomposition (FEVD). But one thing I would also warn you that most of these variables in case of Bangladesh are not actually freely determined by the market. For example, oil price. Even though there's a variation in oil price at the global market, but you would not find the variation at the local market because oil price is controlled or fixed by the government. And and if you look at the like past 2024, 2025, there is no change in the oil price, even though there is a global variation in the oil price. So, are you taking the local oil price or you are taking global oil price? If you are taking global oil price, then it's actually not very meaningful in case of Bangladesh. And then also the exchange rate, there is a huge jump. There were like about 80, 85 taka at the beginning of 2022, and then now in 1 year it shoot up to like about 120 taka. But then it remained around 120 taka for like several months. So exchange rate is also controlled. So if you take the controlled variable, control series, it's most likely will not be stationary. So we need to actually see stationary results to confirm this. So these are like my broad feedback or comments based on your presentation and my quick reading of your slides. You can respond to that, but let me now ask anyone else has any question or comments. Any other question for our presenters today? Jahid, Jahid, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Any comment or any?
No, I don't have that much question, but I congratulate the presenter for the presentation, and I hope I should say that the presenter actually should work on the uh, uh, literature review set uh, more deeply because I think that part would help him to understand actually what research gap or what kind of results they are showing and what is the value of it. So it would help them to write the paper and also to defend their result more more in a good way actually.
That's very important question, and that's very important comments. Thank you, Jahid. Anyone else has any feedback? Okay. Now, Rohit Mahmood and Muhaiminul Haq, if you want to share anything else with us.
Can I add something? Can I
Yeah,
say?
please go ahead.
So first of all, I didn't remember everything. So that is one kind of, we have competed in several competitions. So this is our second competition. So we have presented our paper in front of you, Dhaka University. So your review is very important for us, but I didn't catch up everything. I didn't remember everything what the questions and limitations you have said right now in my mind. So I catch up some of the limitations I want to discuss about that. First of all, you said that we didn't include the research questions and right here. So our right here and our main research questions. So our main research questions is the what are the dynamics relationships between global price and the primary macroeconomic variables such as CPI, exchange rate, exchange rate and exports. And I think we choose this model because of that uh, um, which is choose this study that and and we think that each research questions or this research questions examines the specific aspect of these relationships. Sorry, due to the yeah, so this is the door sound. Okay. The aspects of these relationships, the econometric models we have used, such as ARDL, NARDL, and BCM, we see and IRF and FEBD, and we selected and that is the we selected this because to answer these questions, and we think that as far as I can think that our research questions and objectives are aligned with this, and aligned with this are fitted very well fitted, so that's why. And we take the asymmetry test and in right here as well, so and we did take some structure effect into count as well. And moving to the next questions that we
I think you don't need to defend it,
okay.
right? So
I
since we,
just
huh,
sorry, I just explaining my opinion. Sorry,
yeah,
so
the
if I
thing is that you didn't show any actually results from ARDL, NARDL, VAR, FVAR. You just showed us a correlation table, right? Nothing
yes,
else. You have selected a lot of models but showed us no result.
okay,
That's actually not very useful, right?
yes,
So if you
that
could
is one of
show
my
us,
restrictions. I said that yes,
sorry, what did you say?
we didn't include that. So we think
Yeah,
that
so those are the main results, right?
yes,
This
yes,
histogram, this kernel density. So this is also when you are presenting, you need to be very strategic. What is your main results? What is your main contribution? Focusing on those main results, not just wasting time on useless graphs, right? So this is a very important strategy before you present anywhere, that which part I need feedback on. Do I need feedback on these descriptive graphs, or do I need my feedback on modeling, on results, on estimation, right? So main purpose of like presenting a paper in the seminar is to get good feedback. And you will get a good feedback if you can actually help your audience to understand your research very clearly. If people are not very clear about what you are doing, how you are doing, what is your outcome, then they will not be able to actually help you improving your idea or paper, right? So this is actually a process of learning that we all learn from our presentation. But this is one feedback I would like to give you, that whenever you present anywhere, online or offline, try to use your time very effectively on which you want feedback. Because your ultimate objective is to write a very good paper and then maybe publish it in a good journal, right? So for this, uh, I think you don't need to defend it, but just next time, if you present this same research idea or send this research somewhere else, include the most important details and focus on that. Okay.
we include that.
Uh,
Hello. Hi. Hello.
We'll
yes.
Hello.
include that. Can I?
I just wanted to add something. Basically, sir, it was pretty much in a work in progress, I might say. The idea really came to our mind while the Iran USA war. We saw petrol pumps are stacked, vehicles are being stopped. We are seeing that our country is highly effective to it. So we hit upon a plan. So can we do a research on it? Can we work on it? So we went through some of the literatures. We find out some works in Nigeria or somewhat African countries. In South Asia, we didn't find that much. So that's why we wanted to learn from the best. So we came here. So Alhamdulillah, we have got some good feedbacks from you, and we have to work on a lot. We know that. We will work on it more precisely and concisely, and inshallah, we will come back or we will do progress in it. The main problem we are facing here is the data availability. We are getting yearly data, but the war is happening in a 3-month phase or 4-month phase. So we are trying to get the monthly data. So we are facing this difficulty of not getting the proper data source, not getting the proper monthly data sources. So it's a concern for us. We are working on it. Let's hope for the best. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a good research question, and since you are still work in progress, then I think the best approach would have been to actually throw the idea and then show the literature review findings, what other people are doing and what are their results. And then maybe proposing that we have this data, then maybe we think that this is the best model. And then collect feedback from people. So, but again, we all are here to learn from each other. But I think next time, definitely will be more effective presenters. And let me congratulate you again. And let me thank everyone here for joining us today. And thank you, everyone. Hope to see you in our next month's webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. So.
Thank you, sir. Assalamu alaikum, sir.